So, today we're going to talk about, well, I have a habit of constantly changing the title because I can never figure out what's the best title. But how I started discovering myself as a deaf person and started advocating. And when I mean deaf person, I just mean like, you know, in all sorts of ways. So, I'll just scroll down so we can at least see, you know, because it's cut off. Alright, so. One day we will figure out the best setup for this. Okay, cool. So, today we're going to be talking about me growing up and, you know, being more of a mainstream person. If you follow me on my channel, then you know this story about 300 times now, but some of you might be new or not as familiar, so we're going to go over that. Talk about how I started getting involved in ASL, more like how I realized, oh hey, there's other deaf people besides me, oh thank goodness. And, you know, just started learning more about that and the deaf community in general. And then moving on to the advocacy, captioning, accessibility work that I'm mostly known for, and you might have noticed all the No More Caption shirts that are just floating around. I didn't wear mine. And then the last one, a little bit more of just a laid back, kind of talking about various disability misconceptions and stereotypes. That one will be fun. Very fun. Okay, cool. So in case you don't know who I am or what I am a disabled person. I am deaf. I have been deaf since I was 11. We'll get more into the details with that. I've been dealing with a lot of chronic pain since I was about in 8th grade. I may have said 8 years old in videos, but I can't do math. I don't remember how old I was, but 8th grade, for sure. And kind of with that comes along with a lot of fatigue and brain fog and memory loss. So if I happen to kind of like trail off for a few seconds, that's kind of that whole thing. So I started out as a YouTuber in 2010. Officially, I actually started off as a makeup vlogger for about 3 or 4 years, I think. I don't remember the exact date. And, you know, I started with YouTube because I was like, man, it's after high school graduation. I'm alone. I'm depressed. Like, and, you know, if you go try find a job or go to school in the mainstream world type of thing, it's always really complicated. So when that wasn't working out for me, I thought, well, YouTube is like self-employment and it's a little bit more accessible than over out there in the world. So let's do some videos and see what happens. And then I was thinking, you know, the past couple of months now, I have been kind of talking about accessibility on YouTube. Not making any videos of it, but talking about like Twitter, Facebook, you know, whatever. And occasionally I would be on other makeup bloggers' videos and be like, hey, can you caption your videos, you know, because I can't really understand them all too well. Now keep in mind this was a couple years ago when my hearing was a little bit better, now it's significantly worse. But, you know, I was talking to this one woman and I was like, can you please caption, because let me tell you, it's not working too well. And, you know, she would answer back and say, well, you have the automatic caption button thing, and I'm like, ma'am, with all due respect, you have a video talking about concealers, but the captions are talking about zebras. And they don't relate in any way, shape, or form unless you're somehow finding a zebra on the lab who's wearing, CoverGirl, which I might be a little bit concerned about. And so while I was doing that, for a couple of years, and I started getting a little bit more into, you know, knowing more deaf people and whatnot. Eventually, about 2 years ago, I think it was, I actually was an employee for PPAN, which is the Deaf Professional Arts Network. You may see someone like Sean Force, which, you know, the shirt that I'm wearing. Who else has been on it? Marley Matlin. One of their more popular programs that's on Facebook right now is GTV, and that's exactly what I was working for, or working on, I was a writer for about a year or so. If you've watched some of the news reports from 2016, I probably wrote it. And then in 2016, probably the number one thing that I'm mostly known for is I created the No More Captions campaign, which again I mentioned. You'll see some of the shirts lying around, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but that's the gist. That's it. Alright, we'll have to scroll through a little bit later, but it's fine. So, there's 13-year-old me. Was I 13? Was I 14? I don't really know, but I didn't really change much, did I? Pretty much almost look the same. Oh, yeah. So, as you may or may not know, I grew up mainstream. Yes, I was one of those that were in the big percentage of that. So, once upon a time, I was in 6th grade, and yes, I may have said past videos I was like 12 or something, I was 11. But I was at a friend's house, and I've been to her house many times, and I would communicate with, my friend and her mom and all of that. And my mom was friends with her mom as well. And, just talking to my friend, like I'm gonna pretend you're my friend real quick, and, just, talking to her, and her mother would be behind me, and, just trying to get my attention. She's like, Rikki, hello, hello, over and over again, and getting more and more frustrated because I'm not paying attention. And obviously I have no idea what's going on. I'm just like, I didn't hear a single thing. And so after that little scenario, my friend's mom goes to my mom and goes, hey, oh, by the way, I should have mentioned, my mom's deaf. You see where we're going with this. And so she goes, hey, have you gotten her hearing tested lately? Because, in elementary school, at least in elementary mainstream schools, occasionally, once a year, maybe they would do that annual hearing test type of thing or whatever, and I guess nobody mentioned anything at all. I don't remember how that went. That was so long ago, but she's like, did you go to audiologist recently and, get that tested or whatever? And she was like, no, maybe you should. Because she's not paying attention. She's just not paying attention to me. At least she didn't accuse me of being rude like a couple of other random strangers at the grocery store do. But, so, we went to the audiologist a couple of weeks later, and lo and behold, yeah, she can hear. Not very well. It's just, no. So we found out that my left ear wasn't too bad. I mean, we couldn't really hear all that well out of there, but not too bad. But this side was just awful. And as of right now, this is pretty much has almost absolutely nothing in it. And this is like, there's something there, and if you're kind of close to me and talking a little bit louder than normal people, I can probably recognize that you're right there. But if you want to play the telephone, the whisper game, and get me to guess exactly what you're saying, yeah, no, I can have it. No. And after that, so that was 6th grade, right? You'd think, maybe they would go over all the options and be like, should we put her in the deaf school? Because there's 2 or 3 deaf schools in North Carolina, one in Morganton, one near Winston-Salem, Raleigh, that kind of general area, and one in Jacksonville, Fayetteville, somewhere on the east side of the state. And well, I lived on the west side near Morganton, and you'd think, okay, maybe we'll go over all the options. But no, never went to the North Carolina School for the Deaf. I visit now, occasionally, but just never went as a student. And no sign language in my life. There was the possibility of hearing aids, but yet if you know how hearing aid world works, they're expensive. Very expensive, thousands of dollars. Insurance wasn't even going to cover it after that. So I never got those and still don't wear them. I just got so used to never wearing them that I'm just kind of like, and my ears are very sensitive, so it's just, yeah. I'm going to have to scroll that a little bit. That's not too bad. So, mainstream school. So much fun. No. So, elementary school wasn't too bad. Keep in mind, you know, I was like 11 years old, and all I really cared about was things like Pokemon, Sailor Moon, going outside and just, you know, playing in the dirt. Like, you could have like sat me down and been like, so Rikki, we got something to tell you, so your ears don't work very well. But I just look at you and be like, can I go outside now? Like, so, you know, I was too young to really get it, and also I just didn't really care. And then middle school it wasn't too bad, I don't think, but I do think there were some classes, or at least some activities in class that I couldn't really get involved with. One of them, trying to communicate with a whole bunch of different people in the room, not so great. Watching movies, you know, when you had to watch like a history film or a science film, and then your teacher's like, okay kids, now take out your papers and pencils, and now you're gonna write 30 notes on whatever it is that you just watched. Hated that. Never did well on those. And in high school, that was pretty much the worst of it. That's when a lot of my hearing started to plummet. Still better than it was or is now, but it got considerably worse. And, you know, more of those film things, didn't understand a single thing of it. And I remember one time, this was U.S. history class, and I had a teacher that was actually kind of known for not really being the nicest person in the world. He was kind of like one of those cool teachers, the younger teachers, but also kind of a bit of a jerk, right? And so we had some film on, needed to write 30 facts, and I was like, there's no captions. There we go. So I go to the teacher and I'm like, hey, this doesn't have any captions on it, and like, I can hear the sound coming from the speakers, but it sounds extremely muffled. Almost like, okay, say you can hear perfectly or whatever, you understand English, but now you're watching, say, a Korean film, but no English subtitles are available. So you hear something and you acknowledge that something is going on, but you have no idea what's being said. It just sounds like a complete mumbo jumbo. That's essentially what it was. And so I'm like, can I do something else? Because you don't have captions on the video at all. So can I just do a different assignment? Like, I'm not asking you to just let me do nothing. Just give me something else to do. And he was like, hey, you can just sit in front of the speaker, it'll be fine. And I'm like, this was back when I was still ashamed. I don't really want to say ashamed to be deaf, but you know, when you're the only deaf person that you know, and like, you don't fit in, you're kind of like, oh, this really sucks, you know, that type of feeling, right? I never really stood up for myself. So I was just like, okay. So I did that. And I sat in front of the speaker, so loud. Yes, I could hear it better, but understanding was even worse, because the louder it was and the closer it was to your ear, the more blah, 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 muffled. This doesn't work. So I gave up, and I went back to my seat, and I thought, well, we're going to try. And so we were done, and I look at my paper, and I have some stuff written down, but more like word, absolutely nothing, random word, a couple of other random things, word, just nothing was a complete thought, a complete sentence. It was just, I understood every stubborn word, and then I wrote it down on the paper, and I turned it in, right? So, turned it in, I think, okay, I did my best. I may have tried to copy off my neighbor for a little bit to get something, you know. Okay, hopefully it'll be fine. He will be understanding because he has a deaf or hard of hearing, whatever you want to call it, student in the class. It'll be okay. No. So, we're lining up, we're waiting for the bell to ring, you know, and he's taking the pieces of paper, and he's kind of looking through, reading to himself, kind of mumbling, and then he gets to my paper. And this is where the fun comes in, right? Yeah. he kind of chuckles to himself, starts laughing a little bit more, and then he wants to read my paper to everybody in front of the class. So he's just, basically it didn't end well. I felt very upset, and then the other kids started laughing along with him. And you think, hey, we don't, what's the word I'm looking for? Support other kids making fun of other kids in the class, right? Nah, teacher went along with it. Okay. Anyway, so I felt very upset, and like I said, I wasn't really educated in accessibility or whatever, and I felt like crap, but I also went along with it in that kind of, I don't want to bring any more attention to myself type of way, so let me just go, yeah, it's, So, if I could take a time machine and go back, I would just, no, not yell at him, but, you know, just talk to him a little bit. Be like, that's not okay. You don't do that. And no, I never told the principal. Maybe I should have, but. And then one more story I can think of, math. Was never really good at math, but we had a math teacher. Obviously, it's a math class, Rikki, hello. And so, alright, I'm going to do the example and kind of be like this. Actually, you know what? This works, because we have the exact same setup my teacher used. So, you are all the class, you are the students, right? And I'm sitting over here with you all. And the teacher will be sitting all the way in the back, like the camera person is over there. And so I'm going to pretend you're the teacher. Hello, go for it. And so you would have the lesson plan stuff over here. You know, you gotta pay attention to that. And then my teacher would be all the way over there. Okay, the classroom is significantly smaller, but still. And you just start talking, and you know, math is very visual. So I have to pay attention to what's going on over here. But when I don't understand what's going on over here, I gotta know what the teacher is saying, because he's got to explain it, right? So I can't hear him at all. So I'm trying to turn around and like pay attention to him. He's kind of trying to read his lips. I can't read lips for crap. But you know, with residual hearing and then that, try to kind of put it together, right? And it wasn't working. And so I tried to go back to looking at this, and it didn't work at all. And you just go back and forth, back and forth. So now it's time to do the assignment. I'm so confused. I tried to look at the book and like, you know, figure it out from there. And no, I didn't get it. So what do you do when you don't understand something? You go to the teacher, because teachers help, right? That's their job. You're just shaking your head like, oh man, I know where this is gonna go. I go to the teacher, I'm like, hey, I didn't really understand this. Can you help me? And he goes, well, did you look at the book? And I'm like, yeah. I didn't get it. He's like, well, you should have paid more attention. And I'm like, Now keep in mind, I wasn't like, whoa, proud deaf person, right? But I was still like, yeah, I can't understand a lot. I can't hear a lot of what goes on in the class, so I may need a little extra help, you know, something new. But yeah, he didn't care. He just like, should have paid more attention. Because, yeah, that hurts. So those are the two main things that I can think of. I always remember those stories, and I always talk about it when I do these kinds of presentations. And then, you know, moving on from like the big like school stuff, but hanging out with friends is always important, right? That's part of growing up. You meet your middle school friend, your high school friend, you go have lunch together and whatnot. And man, I think I kind of hated that more than not being able to understand teachers, because you want to fit in a little bit, you know, and not feel like the weird kid. And I was the weird kid who couldn't understand anything that was going on. When we had group projects, kind of was always left out because I couldn't follow with what was going on, right? Going on. And every time we hang out like the halls or lunch, it was just a lot of trying to, like, back and forth trying to follow along with what every single person is doing. Like dinner table syndrome, right? You have family dinners and holidays, and your aunt, your uncle, your grandma, and your father, and your mother, and whoever's all talking, you know, back and forth, and you're just kind of sitting there like, can we pass the green beans, please? Like, you just, like that. But in middle school, and you know what, in middle school, in high school, kids are ruthless. So I was making fun of whenever I would understand something. And I remember, actually, I sat with the bullies at this point of time, smart decisions, I know. But I thought they were my friends. You know, that story that you see in high school movies, right? And I remember, you know, they have some sort of conversation. And I think I understand what's going on, so I blurted out something, and apparently it was the completely wrong thing. And yeah, I got made fun of for it. And every other time, like if somebody's trying to ask me something, couldn't understand them, and I just struggled going. So I had a couple, you know, close friends, some of whom I'm still friends with today, but overall it was just, it kind of sucked. And I always ended up being like that person that gets forgotten about, like at events, even now. Just, you know, it's kind of like you feel like, what's the best way to describe it? Well, she can't really hear us, and she can't really understand us, she can't really follow what's going on, so she probably doesn't want to come anyway, which always sucks. Like, yeah, I'm probably gonna feel crappy if I can't follow along, but I'm also gonna feel crappy if you don't at least invite me, and then I have to stay home and, you know, watch Netflix, which, okay, isn't the most horrible idea, but if your friends forget about you, that kind of sucks. That's not it. It's that. Alright. That kind of went on until high school graduation. And then after high school graduation, I was pretty much by myself. I think I only hung out with one of my friends that I had known since 5th grade, and we hung out occasionally. And, you know, I couldn't drive until I was 20. And so I was at home a lot, I was on the internet a lot, and you know, I did the thing that you're supposed to do. Society tells you gotta go to school, then after you graduate high school, you gotta go to college, and then you gotta go get a job and all of that. So I was trying to do the whole school thing, too expensive financially, it wasn't happening, whatever. But then I was also looking for jobs. And, well, you know, that's always fun. I'm sure some of you can relate. And you know, I'll be flying at things like McDonald's, Sonic, Burger King, Chipotle. Oh, that's a fun story to tell, actually. And, you know, it just wasn't working. And I started getting into YouTube. And just, this is where the whole makeup thing comes in. I was watching makeup tutorials and being like, I kind of want to do this. So that kind of helped out with that. But, you know, a few years in, 2 years in, I was just, so I wanted to be a makeup artist, right? And I was just thinking, well, wait, because everybody else from like McDonald's, Chipotle, whatever, they're like, oh, you can't hear well? You're not going to be the best candidate, sorry. So, you know, I kept getting rejected from everything that I applied to. Some of it may have been because of actual lack of experience, which I understand, but then some of it was, obviously, you kind of tell when they look at you, you know, that they have this special facial expression that they have, and they're like, we don't think you're the right fit, but you know they're saying, yeah, you can't hear very well, sorry, bye. So, you know, I was feeling like crap, and, you know, now I'm obviously like, deaf people can do lots of things, we have skills, we can do jobs. But back then, when you're by yourself, and then society is telling you that you're not good enough, you start to feel like you're actually not good enough. So I just started feeling like crap, and I was like, please tell me that there's actual deaf people out there, because I know there's deaf people out there, I just haven't met them. There's got to be someone, more specifically a makeup artist, because I felt like if I could find a deaf makeup artist, possibly, you don't have to be this super famous person, just tell me you have a job or two, and I'm going to feel really good. And I started Googling, and I found one. I forget her name, it's been a couple of years, but I found one, and I get so freaking excited. And then I wanted to like email her and stuff and be like, please tell me everything that you did because I need to know. And I never did that. I got too scared. But once I found her, I was like, oh my god, there's gonna be more people out there. So I started, looking on Tumblr. Does anybody even use Tumblr anymore? There's still some people that use Tumblr. I don't use it anymore. I got left out and I can't remember my password. I just get back my And Twitter and YouTube. Tumblr and Twitter were my two main platforms in the beginning. I think, yeah, so I was watching a couple of other deaf YouTubers. But they were signing, and I didn't know a single thing of sign language. I knew like the alphabet that you learn in middle school. But other than that, I was kind of like, So I was like, hey, my people. But at the same time, I was like, but I can't really relate because one, I don't know what's being said, and two, like we obviously live like two different types of deaf lives. So, but that didn't stop me from getting interested. And I found a couple of deaf YouTubers, some ASL using deaf YouTubers, who caption their videos. So I would pick up a couple of signs here and there, but most importantly, I just found somebody that I could kind of connect to. And now I'm sad that I don't remember their names, and I'm hoping they're still doing something on YouTube, but yeah. And YouTube wasn't enough because I couldn't really connect with them. But so then I started looking at Tumblr and the tag system. So I put deaf and hard of hearing and the dreaded word hearing impaired, but keep in mind this was before I knew a whole lot, so I've learned now, but and I don't like it now either, but back then. So I started finding all of these people and all of these different posts, and I was just like, that Aladdin song, A Whole New World, start singing that to myself the whole time. So it was just like, holy crap. And I started reading their posts, and then I would reply to their posts. I started following their blogs, and I would talk to them, and I would be like, hey, so I got some hearing loss, and I'm trying to find myself or whatever, navigate this whole little system, and can we be friends maybe? I'm a little intimidated, but you look nice, And so, yeah, I started learning a little bit on Tumblr. I started connecting with people that I still talk to today, and that's been pretty fun. And that's what got me to talk about, deaf things on YouTube. So that's when, 2014, I made, can I swear when I say my YouTube title, my YouTube video title? Okay, so I make shit hearing people say. Well, before that, I made a basic, Q&A about deafness, scientifically deafness, not deaf culture. I keep in my lane as much as possible. But, just talking about, hey, here's what being deaf means. It's a spectrum. Hey, some of us, talk because we grew up and, thank you, Alexander Graham Bell, you jerk. Things like that, and just, basic stuff. And that did pretty well. And then I made another video after that, I can't remember. But then, shit hearing people say came out, and now it's at almost 500,000 views. Holy crap. But, I started getting really popular, and that was the real start of things. And in 2015, let me scroll down just a little bit smidge. That'll work. So in 2015, I became acquaintances with a few more deaf people, culturally deaf people. Jules Dameron, some of you may have heard of her. She's also worked with Japan, and she's one of the pretty well-known deaf filmmaker. She lives in Los Angeles, and we kind of became acquaintances on Twitter. And I got an email from some guy in Los Angeles. This is a long story that ends horribly, but long story short, he emailed me and he's like, hey, so I got this movie that I want to make about, this deaf guy meets a deaf girl, to get together in a relationship, blah, blah, blah. And we wanted to know if you want to set an audition date. And so I did it, and I got it. And Joel was like, hey, do it, I'm like, okay. Oh man, that was a terrible, that ended horribly. But anyways, it finished, and I'm alive, but very uncomfortable. So, here's the thing, he didn't find a place to stay in LA. And so I asked Jules, because I didn't want to stay with that person's mother. And so she's like, okay, you can stay at my house. I'm like, okay, cool. Here's the thing. Only sign I really knew was water. So I was like, well, you know, Jules knew English, you know, she grew up a little bit mainstream, I think. I don't really know, but you know, she could speak as well. So I wasn't so intimidated, but I was actually really intimidated. And she picks me up from the airport, and I go into her car, and I'm like, ah, crap, what do I do now? It's like you're going into a foreign country, right? You don't know that country's language very well, but you're staying with someone that, you know, speaks that different language, and you're like, oh crap, what did I do? But yeah, it went really well. My sign for airplane at the time was more like gestures, and it was like this instead of like this. But I got the point across. As long as I got the point across, it was fine. And so I was staying there for a week, and that was pretty much the week of me spending time with a whole lot of deaf people. And I was completely out of my element and scared. I went to her house, her roommate and her other friend was there, and you know, they're signing. This is the very first time I've seen signing like in person. And the feeling of seeing it in a video by itself and seeing it in person in that room for the first time is very, very different. And I was scared. I was so scared. And I get in there, it's been like 5 minutes, and I'm like, so I'm gonna go hide in the kitchen now? Okay? Alright, cool. And so I hid in the kitchen, and they're signing away, and I'm just like petrified. I almost started crying in the kitchen, because I was like, this is very new to me, you know? Like, I'm not used to this, but eventually, I learned a couple new signs while I was in the kitchen, and successfully said that I was gonna go shower. Yay. And that night, I think it was exactly that night, we went to like this, it was a show, and there were more deaf people there, you know, like Sancha May Frank, and Miles, and you know, just a couple other people, like the cast of Spring Awakening was there, basically. And again, very surreal, lots of signing, and I'm like, I feel very inadequate right now, but I'm here, it's fine. But you know, a couple of them, I could think Miles for one, you know, he spoke as well occasionally, and so he was helping me out, and you know, I was trying to, you know, meet halfway. I still couldn't sign, but I could at least gesture again, and you know, try to get my point across. So we had a game night one night. That was very intimidating. You ever try to play a game and try to understand the directions of the language you don't know? I wasn't very good at the game, but then we played Uno. It got better. I know Uno. So, yeah. So, that was a very surreal experience. And at the end of the week, when I had to fly home, I was very upset that I had to fly home and I wanted to stay. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. And after that, you know, I got inspired. And after that, I got inspired to take ASL a little bit more seriously. I mean, before I had self-studied here and there, bought the flashcards, you know, things like that. Never stuck with it for more than like a day or two. It was just like, because in my mind I was like, well, nobody else knows ASL. You know, I said my mom's deaf, but she grew up orally as well. So it's just like, well, that's not gonna help. And I was just thinking, well, nobody else I know is deaf, nobody else I know knows ASL, like, what's the point in learning this, right? That was my mentality for so long. But now I was just like, well, I have more of a connection with these people, so I'm going to try to take it a little bit more seriously. And so, since then, since 2015, I'm not perfect, but you know, I can hold a conversation for a little bit. I still get confused and lost in some conversations, but you know, everybody learns languages at their own pace, and I try to get involved as much as possible. So a year after that, I was, you know, looking for a job still. This was going on for many years, and you know, YouTube doesn't pay a whole lot. People think that YouTubers are filthy rich. Okay, some YouTubers are filthy rich, but most of us are, you're just like, PewDiePie. But, frickin' PewDiePie, you're watching this, being filmed. But, no, for most YouTubers, you don't make a whole lot. I make about $50 a month before taxes, so, you know, I don't make a whole lot. So I was trying to find something, and, well, I was friends with Sean. Jewel was working with them at this time, and she told me, hey, we are making this new thing, and, you're looking for a job, and, well, you don't have to actually be in Detroit or in Los Angeles for this, but you want to be a writer for a new news program. And I was like, okay. So that happened. That was pretty cool. And, really ever since then, I've been trying to attend, as many events as possible. We have the North Carolina School for the deaf, so they occasionally have events, but, it doesn't become a whole regular thing because it's K through 12, and it might be a little weird that a 27-year-old woman who doesn't work there comes over there often, so let's not be creepy. But, when NCSD has events, try to go there as much as possible. I was actually recently a judge for a talent show, which was pretty cool. And, I used to go to Toronto a lot when I was dating my ex, and Toronto has a pretty decent, deaf community there. Boy, let me tell you, I got lost all over again when I went there for the first time and was signing with them. Yes, Toronto uses ASL, but their vocabulary differs as well. So I'm like, what are you saying? But, had a couple of friends there, attended as many events there as possible, it made it so much easier because I could just take the subway and go over there and be like, hey, how you doing? Los Angeles, I don't really get invited to a whole lot of deaf events in Los Angeles, but when YouTube events happen, like VidCon, go over there and, my friend might be like, hey, if you got time, you want to come over to, I think ASL Cabaret was one of them, I think that's what it was, and went over there, So, try to do as much as possible. Everybody, finding yourself as a deaf person, right, is a lifelong journey. I've never claimed, nobody ever really claims, I think, that, you jump in there for like 5 days and say that you're an expert, right? It doesn't work like that. But, as much as possible, try to get it, and I am planning to continue to do that type of thing. Oh, I can just scroll down like this, I don't have to click on anything. Yeah. So, the activism and captioning work, the main thing that I'm known for. So when I started changing my content in 2014, first started off with your basic, like, hey, this is what deafness means, some hear more, some hear less. Very few deaf people are 100%, very, very, very deaf, can't hear a single thing. You got a cochlear implant, yes, that's how that works. And then I was talking about accessibility and trying to figure out a way to make people know about captions because, well, let's be real, captions is not a very popular topic on YouTube. If you work in this kind of world, yes it is, but to the average YouTuber, they want to watch prank videos, makeup videos, whatever else. And I was thinking, okay, so how can I get the ball rolling on that? How can I actually get people to watch this video? And so I had a couple of bigger YouTuber friends, and I said, hey, can you help me share this video when it goes up, and also can you caption your videos as well? Because you don't, but I'm gonna make an exception and just ask you to help me with this. Because nobody's perfect, and sometimes you gotta, do that type of thing. And I was asking every other bigger YouTuber, even smaller YouTubers, I just wanted people to share it, right? But the bigger the better, more hopeful. And they started sharing, what was the very first captioning video that I did? I think it might have been the deaf accessibility on YouTube, or it was another one that was titled YouTubers You Need to Caption Their Videos. But either way, I was like, can you please share this? I really need help getting the word out. And so I had a friend, Jessica Ramsey, Facebook a lot, or go on Facebook a lot. She's like the host of MTV Decoded, and a couple of other people started sharing, and some very famous people, actor people, started sharing posts as well. That was surreal. And what were they the most popular videos ever at the time? No, but more and more people started getting aware of the fact that, hey, captioning would be a really good thing for you to do. And in 2015, was it 2015? Ah yes, January 2015, I went to Los Angeles with a friend. We were going to a makeup show. It was just a complete personal vacation. And I have my phone off, as you should. And we land, we wait for our bags, and wow, did I think somebody was dying when my phone was blowing up the second I turned it on. Notification coming out of every single social media, text messages, Twitter. I might have even gotten a phone call. Why are you calling me, by the way, friend? Like, why are you leaving a voicemail? This isn't going to work. I only ever call my dad, and even then I still couldn't understand him, and that's only because I was comfortable screaming, "What?" to him, because he's my dad and not my doctor. So, and I was just like, okay, who died? Like, seriously, who died? I'm very scared right now. And I opened up a text message from my ex-boyfriend, and it said, "Tyler Oakley just made a video about you." You're like freaking the hell out over there. You're like, oh! But that was me. That was me at baggage claim. I was like, who? I mean, I knew who he was, but I was just like, who? And so I didn't have time to watch it. But also, if you don't know who Tyler Oakley is, he is like a gay icon on YouTube. He has millions of followers, and you know. But he made a video called "Hear Me Out," and he was talking about the importance of captions. And my face popped up in the video, my name popped up in the video, and he's like, "I watched this video from another YouTuber named Rikki Poynter," and I was like, holy crap, please pinch me, not that hard, Whitney, please stop. And yeah, and I got a hell of a lot more traffic, and it was just real. My notifications are blowing up, media people are emailing me like, "Hey, can we do an interview with you, blah, blah, blah," and I'm like, okay, what the hell is this? So Huffington Post, ABC News, you know, people like that. I was like, holy crap. And so that was pretty awesome, and I had a great time in Los Angeles buying way too much makeup that I needed to. That's okay. And then we were going to the airport, waiting at the airport, and sometime during that day, open up Twitter again, and Superwoman, aka Lily Singh, makes a tweet and talks about, you know, mentioning me and be like, "I need to start captioning my videos. I'm going to start captioning my videos." And I really liked her videos, and I was so excited. She still doesn't vlog. She still doesn't caption her vlog channel. I'm going to talk to her about that. But I just got really excited. And it was that same thing all over again. I was like, am I dreaming right now? Like, what the heck? And then it took her about a year to get that going, but you know, and then it started working. And Good Mythical Morning, they're a duo that talks about stuff. I don't really follow their channel, but I had an email from their kind of manager, I guess. She was, you know, emailing me. She's like, "Hey, so we're thinking of having like this volunteer team of captioners for our channel, and we were wondering if you could, like, you know, just make a post, share it out there, and, you know, see if people want to get involved." So I was doing that. Okay, cool. And eventually a video comes out from Good Mythical Morning. They talk about, you know, whatever it is that they're talking about, and my name popped up again. That was pretty cool. Very surreal. And you know, the more that caught on, like I said, was some media attention that happened, and in 2015, I started, you know, learning about Hank Green and John Green, and oh look, they had a conference called VidCon, and you know, I got sick of being at home all the time. I'm going to go travel, I'm going to get involved in these things. I thought it would be kind of cool. And you know, they didn't have anything about disability, about deafness, about accessibility, whatever, and I'm like, I'm not happy with that. Let me try to change that. So I tweeted Hank, and I was like, hey, can we get a captioning workshop going on? And I think I actually just pulled my mic off. Whoops. No, we're fine. And I just tweeted, and I was like, hey, so I noticed you don't have a captioning workshop. Can we make that happen? And he was like, yeah, sure, email me. So I emailed him very, very quickly, and I was like, you know, let's just talk about this. And I got invited to VidCon in my first year, and I think Lights Camera Caption may have, well, Lights Camera Caption, it was Caption. I can't remember my own workshop names. But, so I think that was the first closed captioning workshop, but I'm not entirely sure, at least by a deaf YouTuber, yes. But eventually Google also started having their own workshops with the same exact topic. So I got to do that workshop for 2 years in a row, and then the third year, they only had Google do it, and then this year, a British deaf YouTuber named Jessica Calgren-Fozard did pretty much the same workshop, just, you know, with her spin on it. So that was pretty cool. Hopefully I'll get to go to VidCon next year. That would be nice. But also, yeah, so VidCon started having accessibility and disability panels, and before, you know, 2015, I don't think they ever had ASL interpreters or captions. And when I had that workshop the very first year, we had one interpreter, and I can't remember if I asked for CART. But we did have, for the second year, we had ASL interpreters again, and we scheduled CART, but they never showed up, or the ASL interpreter didn't show, one of them didn't show up. But then last year, it got so much better, and they started having like a whole lot of ASL interpreters just walking around, you know, the building, some assigned, and then some that's kind of like backup, you know, and not so much captions though. If you requested it, I think we had them for our disability panels, and I think we had some on the main stage, but that was pretty much it. But then this year, again, a lot of ASL interpreters, and this time, they had more captioners and more like the main stage things that like everybody could come watch, and then, but when you had panels and more like separated stuff, for lack of a better description, if you wanted a captioner, this time you could actually request it, which is pretty freaking awesome. So instead of us being like, well, we need to have an ASL interpreter for this, you know, specific disability panel, which we still did because obviously why wouldn't you have an ASL interpreter, a disability and accessibility panel? But the fact that you were now able to request an ASL interpreter for things like, I don't know, talking about mental health or LGBT, you know, things that didn't necessarily have anything to do by default with, you know, disability or accessibility, the fact that they made that happen was so awesome. Is it still perfect? Do they still run perfectly over there? No, but a major improvement from, you know, 2015 and even way before that when they had absolutely none of it. And then on September 2016, No More Captions was created. I was always talking about captions, obviously, but I wanted to try to see if I could make something big happen. You know, social media, we love hashtags. Sometimes we use way too many of them on Twitter and the like, but we like them, and they can really help you, you know, bring attention to something. And so it was, you know, September, Deaf Awareness Month, and, you know, the last week, Deaf Awareness Week. And I thought, well, maybe on Deaf Awareness Day, which is the last Sunday of the month, I was going to make this big campaign, or as big as possible, and use a hashtag, because the more people, like, bring attention to it all at the same time, the better your chances. So I did that, and I came up with the name, I came up with the outline of kind of what I wanted to happen, and I started emailing my friends, I started going on Twitter, and I was like, hey, if anybody's interested in helping me out with like this thing, you know, message me and I'll add your name to this spreadsheet thing. And so I told my friends, I was like, hey, so I'm going to make a video. What exactly did I make the video on? I think it was how to properly, or as best as you can, properly caption your videos without all the annoying commentary and jokes and all of that we don't want. Like, no, they did not say so-and-so looks like a dummy. They did not say that. You cannot troll in the commentary and the captions. Don't do that. So, talking about that kind of thing, and I had people send in like little messages, you know, saying either no more captions or signing it or like taking a piece of paper and writing it and showing it, whatever it was. I just wanted to get as many people as possible involved in the actual video that I made, but also I asked them to make their own videos because, again, the more people you get the message out to, the better your chances. So I wasn't a huge list or anything, but you know, I was pretty happy for my first attempt at doing it, and I think I had like 10, somewhere between 10 and 20 people. I have a whole playlist with all the videos that I did. I may have gotten a little emotional, you know, because honestly, I didn't think anybody was gonna do it. I thought maybe they would have been like, yeah, I'll do it, and then, you know, sometimes people don't do whatever it is that they say they're gonna do, and you're kind of like, oh, that sucks. But they did. I was really happy. I'm going to take a sip of water real quick, if that's okay. I didn't do this in my last presentation, and I choked. And then I drank hot coffee and I regretted it. And then the audience yelled at me for drinking coffee instead of water. I'm just made of coffee. Other humans are made of water. I'm made of coffee. And now, the fun part. Disability, misconceptions, and stereotype. Not just deafness, but you know, everything else in the world in general. I made a video about this for Buffer Festival 2 years ago, and I'm sorry if you watched it and I scared you with a pretend car crash scene at the end, but I scared the hell out of the audience that day. It was pretty funny. But anyway, so let's just go over a couple. Well, before we get to the more serious ones, yes, I can use the bathroom. Yes, I can wipe after I use the bathroom. What other silly misconceptions are there? Yes, I have an app if I can use the bathroom. I know. Very strange. Was there anything else that I've been thinking of? No, that's pretty much the main, like, really strange one that I've ever received. So, to get serious now, deafness and disabilities in general are a spectrum. So, for example, I am not like 100% profoundly deaf. Few deaf people really are. I likely have a little bit more hearing than some of the other deaf people that are here right now. So, that's completely possible. It also may be possible that somebody here who is deaf hears a little bit better than me. But also, not only that, some deaf people may be able to hear higher pitched tones, and they can't hear deep tones for crap. For me, I hear deeper tones much better than high pitched ones, so I may not be able to hear all deep tones, but if I'm hitting something, I can kind of hear it because it's more deeper. But, so, let's say, in terms of high-pitched sound, a kitchen timer. This is a fun story. So, we had a kitchen timer out, and it was, you know, going off or whatever. It went off for about 5 minutes, unknown to me. And the person comes into the living room, and he's like, Rikki? Yes? Did you not hear that? But the kitchen timer's been going on for the last 5 minutes. Thankfully it wasn't like 3 in the morning or anything when everybody's sleeping. And thankfully nobody was cooking anything. Nobody burned anything down. I had the kitchen timer on, or somebody had the timer on for like, I don't know, doing something, waiting 5 minutes, face mask, I don't know. But it was going off forever and I had no idea. But yeah, that's just an example. Can't hear church bells, except for this one church, and I don't know what it is about this one church. Maybe they want to recruit me or something, I don't know. But every time I drive past other churches that are likely ring ringing at that specific time that they ring. Can't hear them. But this one church near the Aldi and the car shop, which sounds like a very strange place to put one. I don't know, get your car fixed while you go to church, I don't know. I can hear that one. Very strange. But yeah, like I have other deaf friends, you know, Josh Castile, one guy that was on Spring Awakening, you know, apparently we might have like the same kind of hearing or whatever, and we hear about the same amounts, and, you know, other people. I got one deaf friend that can lip read a heck of a lot better than me, and apparently hears a lot better than me. She's like, what the heck was that? And I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, what's that thing? And I'm like, why are you asking me about people? You should know this. You're deaf too. Why are you asking me? How do you know? And you know, like other disabilities, like my friend Annie Olaney, she has EDS. I don't know the full name for it, but essentially she has a lot of chronic pain, you know. Sometimes she's in a wheelchair. And you know, this happens on Twitter a lot. If somebody, you see pictures from able people that get really angry, or even like, you know, we're gonna take up a disabled parking spot, right? And you happen to get out of your car and walk to the back of your car real quick to get your wheelchair out, right? And able people get angry and they start yelling, "Faker, you're lying, you're faking." Well, here's the thing. Obviously, you know, some people who use mobility aids can walk. So my friend Annie, I hung out with her while she's in a wheelchair. I hung out with her while she's using a cane. And I hung out with her while she's just, you know, walking like I do. She can't do that for very long without needing a cane, but, you know. And, you know, I'm kind of that same way too. I'm getting to a point where, like, you know, I'm pretty good with walking for the most part, but sometimes, you know, I'm actually thinking about getting a cane myself, but walking for a long period of time, sometimes you just gotta sit. What else can I think of? Blindness. Anybody know Molly Burke, the YouTuber? Yeah, good friend of mine. So, a lot of people, you know, a lot of people think I'm faking being deaf on YouTube, right? A lot of people think she's like faking being blind, and I'm now mixing English words together. Oh dear. And you know, like, oh my god, like when we did a video together, a lot of people are like, she's not deaf, she can hear her, she's understanding everything perfectly. But what people don't realize is that one, everything's pre-planned, two, everything's edited. So the moments when I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about, we stop the camera and then continue to film, or we just cut that out. Or, you know, writing in notebooks or whatever, or sometimes getting her to repeat herself. Or, you know, like when we plan ahead of time, I kind of know what's going to be said, so I can kind of guess. And yeah, sometimes I just happen to know what she was saying because she's sitting on my good side, right? This is the good side. So, I might understand you sometimes. And sometimes I might, like I said, when we're going back to the whole video, writing your notes thing, I might know what you have said in the first half, but I don't know what you said in the second half. And sometimes I'm just nodding my head and hoping you did say something really bad and I accidentally agreed to a really bad thing. And then, you know, people were going, Molly's not really blind, she knew where to look when Rikki was talking. And this is really funny because I'm like, you don't think she can hear exactly where I'm sitting, and you don't think she knows exactly where I'm sitting. You know, we're sitting on the couch together and you kind of feel when somebody's sitting down and go, oh look, somebody's sitting over there. Like, come on, really? No, you're not making me blind. But anyway, you know, different types of blindness out there. So I got two blind friends, Molly and James Rath. We also did a video together. So Molly can see like some light. She can't really see much else, but she can see like when there's light around. James, I think he still has some vision, but you know, it's not perfect. He's able to, you know, he edits his own videos, but he has to have everything maximized on his computer, on his MacBook. When he's using a phone, you know, he's got it all, you know, amped up. Like I'm sure there's a couple of, you know, visually impaired blind people around here. You all got your differences and, you know, whatever. No disability, no deafness or whatever, exact same. You might have the same types, you might find two people with the same types or whatever, you know, but it's, yeah. This deafness is a spectrum. Disabilities are a spectrum. So this one we kind of proven here already, not all deaf people speak in okay, not all deaf people sign. I don't want to get into the whole big history of it, because then we will be here forever, and holy crap, we got 15 minutes left. I need to hurry up. Sorry. But, you know, like, for example, I grew up mainstream. I happen to learn English. English is my primary language, and I'm learning another one, and I use, you know, English in more, like, professional settings, like over here, this type of thing, because it's easier. And then in more like casual settings, I use ASL to the best of my ability, right? And then, you know, some deaf people don't speak up, and that's fine. And no, it doesn't make people any less smart. To all the ableists out there, you know, outside of this room, doesn't make people any less smart. Jerks. Another one is that deaf people can be employed. They are very skilled. I mean, don't hire me as a math teacher. You're going to fail. But I can still do things. Okay? I mean, I may not be able to waitress very well, right? Because I'm probably going to get your order wrong, maybe, unless you point to it. But I like to think I'm pretty decent at public speaking. I can help you out with some accessibility stuff. I can help you out with some video stuff. I've got deaf friends at freaking Google for crying out loud, you know, and other, you know, disabled friends. James used to work at Apple, you know, that type of thing. Yes, we might need to do a little bit of a workaround, right? But just because we're disabled, just because we're deaf, just because we're blind, whatever, it doesn't automatically mean that we're quote, quote, useless. And that we can't be employed. Please employ us, because some of you, I mean, like in the outside world, I like to think you all are very good people, okay? But, you know, some of you just think, you know, or you're like, what did they say? Man, all these disabled people are so lazy, blah, 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 y'all need to get a job. But then we go to get a job, and then the same people are like, I'm not going to hire you to do that. Make up your mind, pick a side. Better side, but at least pick a side and stick with it, you know? Jeez. Let's see. Ah, yeah, so you know those people that are like, man, all these people taking up our resources, all the government resources, you know, stuff like that. Or, you know, when somebody's like, well, why don't you just get SSI, or, you know, all kinds of these financial aid things. Doesn't always happen. I have on occasion tried to sign up for SSI or whatever, and the thing is, you're only allowed a certain amount in your bank account, right? I don't remember the, oh gosh, I think it's like 2,000. It might differ from state to state, but at least a couple of my friends have tried, or they are on it, but they say you can only have at least like $2,000 in your bank account. Here's the thing. I'm not going to get into specifics on how much I can make on a sponsored video, or, you know, and this type of thing, but on top of the other jobs that I do and that I get paid for, the second I do a sponsored video, that means I'm just going to lose everything, or I'm going to get in trouble, or they're going to be like, no, you can't have this money anymore because you make too much. And also, like, that's not even, the amount that they give you, or the amount that they tell you to hold on to is not necessarily enough to live, right? That's messed up. But adding on to that, so I have personally learned that when disabled people marry, whether it's one disabled person, one able person, or two disabled people marrying each other, they could lose all the benefits that they had when they were like single people, or not married people. I have a blind friend who has been with her partner for a very, very, very long time, years, probably a decade, and she had benefits of her own, but she learned that she could not marry her partner ever unless she wants to lose all the benefits that she has. And she needs those benefits, you know, the payments and the insurance or whatever, but she can't have that. I know I've seen other stories on Twitter where they're just like, yeah, can't marry my partner because I'm going to lose everything that I need. I'm going to lose my access to my medication and what have you, which is like, it really sucks. You know, you need to have this type of thing to live, and you also want to be able to marry a partner and live together. Sometimes you can't even live together, apparently. What the heck is that? We're almost done. We're on the last one. We're on the last one. That's fair. I'm not taking up all my time. Oh, your time. disabled deaf people, etc., have carers or interpreters. Basically, in a nutshell, not all of us have access to accessibility. So, you know, like I've seen on Twitter, well, why don't you just, you have a carer to help you out with this type of thing, right? You know, oh, you know what, the plastic straw debate, right? Well, let's not get into the whole plastic straw debate, but let me just use that as an example, okay? So when somebody says, I need plastic straws so I can drink and, you know, not die, and, you know, well, why don't you get a reusable straw? You just clean it. Well, this specific disabled person, Bob here, might not be able to use his hands very well, therefore he can't really, you know, clean it on his own. Well, why don't you get your carer to do it? What carer? They're hundreds of dollars. I think, why are you automatically assuming that I have a carer? Well, don't they just give you one? No! You think carers work for free? What do you want? I mean, wouldn't that be nice if we got all these things for free? So he's like, damn, geez. But you know, also, so interpreters, thankfully, we are very fortunate to have interpreters here today. Thank you. And captions, thank you. I can meet you. Is my mic, you hear me? Yes. But you know, like for example, I couldn't get accessibility in high school and whatnot is, okay, well, to be honest, well, one, I didn't know ASL. Two, I didn't even know that we actually had programs, but nobody ever told me. But you know, in hospitals and stuff like that, oh, you're in the emergency room and you're dying and you're deaf? Well, we can't get an interpreter for you. Sucks to be you, I guess. Like, well, you can't get them for free. I mean, yeah, just carers, more specifically, are just so expensive. Can I think of any like really funny misconceptions? No, I got nothing. I want to end this on a more lighter note, but I got nothing. So, okay, that's just a couple. There's probably more, but you know. And that is it. And we got 10 minutes left. Thank you! Oh. I'm sorry if I talk too fast. It's a habit, a bad habit. We got the Q&A. Long story short, I will say if there's anything very specific about like deaf culture things, like I said, I tend to stay in my lane as much as possible, so I may not know everything. So I just like grab one and okay, cool. There's no cat to help me out. Send me a picture of your cat in the bucket. I don't get a cat. Alright, so we're gonna just randomly pick one out. I miss my cat, okay? Alright, let's see. I like to make my presentations very funny, but also kind of professional, but mostly very funny. I want to entertain you all. Okay. How have being mainstream changed your perspective about ASL and deaf culture? This is a very loaded question. Okay, well here's the thing. So when I grew up mainstream, right, hopefully I'm going to understand this question the way that you're asking. You know, I used to be ashamed of being deaf, you know, and thought that being deaf was a bad thing. I don't think that now. Yes, sometimes it's a pain, and sometimes I'm like, dang it, I wish this wasn't a thing, but you know, that's just usually when like society beats you down a lot, and then you're like, oh my god, but overall, I'm just like, but I don't know, I really don't know how to answer this question. Let's see, how has the mainstream changed your perspective? See if I can come back to that. If you ask me this question, maybe we can have a conversation. I think that'll be easier. Sorry. that just requires a little bit of thinking, you know? Alright. Did you wish you attended a residential school? Sometimes English words fly past my brain, but I'm thinking of institute type of thing, right? Yes. Okay. So, yeah, I kind of do. It goes back to like when, you know, you grow up mainstream, you're all alone and this and that, and I think, so when I started jumping into like the other type of deaf life, right, sometimes there's a lot of you getting involved when you're trying to like step in, right, and when I think about how difficult it is for me to remember ASL like I remember. I forget like a lot of stuff. It's just how my brain works now. And feeling alone or whatever, I feel like maybe my life would have been a little bit different if I grew up with other deaf friends, grew up with the language at a very young age, and was able to use it regularly. Because like now, I don't get to use it as regularly as I would have if, say, I went to Mornington and went to NCST, right? So, I mean, now, I try to use it as much as possible, talk to my online friends, I try to make more videos in ASL. I know there's a far few in between, but I'm trying, and next month I got some planned. I just filmed 2 today, I'm very excited. But yeah, I just try to think about what it would be like, but at the same time...
The mic went off.
Oh, did it die?
Yeah, it went
off.
Here.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay. I can't hear this one. I heard that one, not this one. Okay, so what was that? I completely forgot what I was.
Morganton.
Oh, yeah.
You said your life would have felt easier.
Morganton. Sorry, this is the brain fog moment. The memory loss moment, I'm sorry. But yeah, oh right, okay, so I think like, at the same time, I think if I didn't grow up mainstream, if I didn't go to, if I didn't go to public school, I'm thinking, would I be doing what I do now? Would I be talking about accessibility? Would I be talking about, my stories, fighting for captions or whatever? I might be, because I imagine it would still suck even if I had a different deaf life. Yeah. But I don't know. Obviously, I can't change anything. Can't pull a Doctor Who. Anybody like it in a new season? I like it. But yeah, I do at least wish that it would have been an option. And I brought this up like a year or 2 ago to my parents, and I was like, why didn't you at least think about it? Like, did it never just occur to you? That type of thing. Because very quickly, to summarize this, once we had a deaf woman come up at our hearing friend, and they were offering ASL classes, so no, it wasn't a deaf school, but I was like 17 at the time, so memory was a little bit better then. And it would have been nice to, have that type of thing, but my dad was like, answers the door, and he finds out what she's offering. He's like, no, thank you. It wasn't rude or anything, but she's like, no, thank you. And I'm like, what was that? Oh, some deaf woman, just offering ASL classes. Hey, good daughter, dude. Oh, yeah. Just, would have been nice. Ooh, I like this person's handwriting. For those who hope to find more deaf representation in media, can you recommend others similar to yourself who are producing accessible content? I love this question. Okay, so I'm going to try to include this in like a tweet later or something because I don't have like any names to show. Jessica Calvert-Fozard, one of my absolute favorites, she's one of the bigger ones on YouTube right now, talks a lot about her chronic illnesses and deafness. She does use British Sign Language, so, different type of language there, but she also speaks English, but yeah, really, really fantastic. Jessica Flores, a friend of mine, I did a collab with her. She doesn't make as much content, but she does a lot of comedy if you want to go take a look at that. Let's see, who else? Charlamagne Rista, man, I think that's how you pronounce his last name. He's a deaf trans YouTuber and model. He's been blowing up recently, so that's a good one. Let's see, what about more ASL using people? Okay, I know someone named Rogan, Cheyenne, Deaf Wanderlust. There's a couple. I'm going to try and make a tweet later because it's kind of hard to think of everyone right now. I was trying to remember all the names and how to spell it right. But yeah. I think I also might have a video on that, but I'll have to check and see. Our Student Disability Services Office is located at the bottom of a large staircase in a basement. Thoughts? Please tell me there's a wheelchair ramp.
Elevator.
Give me their email. That's all I got. Come on, what? I mean, maybe I watched too many horror movies, but first First of all, it's a baby. Second of all, there's no ramp. Come on, at least you could have a ramp. Come on. Okay. Excuse me. How would you advise a person unfamiliar with the deaf community to get knowledgeable and become an active ally? Okay, so social media is a big one. Social media has changed so much in the world and how much we know, and like, you know, well, it gave me a career and it helped other deaf people out with their careers, right? Yay, self-employment. So YouTube is one of them. There's a whole bunch of, you know, deaf YouTubers, even with disability. We're going to talk about disability too, all of us in general. So many disabled YouTubers, listen to their stories. Some of us write articles, read the articles. Gosh, there's, you know, Tumblr and blog posts, all types of, you know, different things. As far as becoming an actual ally, people ask each person how to help. They'll probably say the same thing as me, you know. So let's say they upload a video. I uploaded one today. If you don't want to retweet it. I mean that jokingly. If they tweet something, you know, with all these things that's happening in the world, right? If they share a news article, whatever, their own personal story, retweet it, email it, post it on Facebook. Yes, your only friend, maybe your grandmother, I don't care. Retweet it and share it. Even if just one person sees it, it means one more person sees it. I get people telling me all the time, but I only have 20 followers on Twitter. 20 is better than 0. And even if they don't read it, you still, if you don't do something at all, there's a 100% chance nothing's gonna happen, right? But if you at least share it, yeah, they may not look at it, but you still made that possibility happen, so. Oh God, I love this one. Do you think YouTube is an accessible platform? Yes or no? If you asked me this like a couple years ago, I'd be, no. It also depends on like what kind of accessibility that you're talking about. As far as deaf accessibility, it's a little bit better. The automatic captions, while they still suck, they're better than what they were a few years ago. So as long as you have like a good mic, good audio, you speak clearly, aka not like me. The automatic captions still don't understand me very well. But it's gotten better. A lot more words are correct, but the grammar is still all messed up. Nothing's capitalized, everything's like one run-on sentence, there's no periods, and they show one word at a time, which at least for me is not really easy to read. It's kind of like an eyesore type of thing. Like if you watch like live news shows or whatever, they do a couple words at a time, but it's a little bit easier. But with YouTube, it's just like this, and oh God, it hurts to talk about that. But yeah. But as far as like, you know, let's talk about like accessibility for blind viewers. Definitely not accessible. There are no audio description, anything like that. If you upload a caption file, you can, I upload a video that's an ASL, right? Doesn't have voice in it, although I'm trying now. But there's captions. Of course, they're not going to be able to hear what that's being said from the video alone, I don't think. But there is a menu option where you can open up the captions and turn it into a transcript type of file. So then their accessibility program can read that. But there's still no like audio description. So say if something is like a cinematic piece, right? So even if there's dialogue, but there's still something like incredibly visual. My videos are pretty boring. Like I just sit in a chair and talk, right? But like you might have someone like Casey Neistat, you know, he makes all these really cool vlog things, and you might want to know what kind of scenery is being told while he's sharing a story. Unless he's actually describing it, if you're blind, whatever, you're not probably gonna know what's happening, you know. So if they added audio description like Netflix has recently added on, that would be kind of cool. How do you feel about language acquisition? I had an answer and then it just like flew out of my head. We need more equal access to all the languages. Okay. Give that kids a chance. I wanted one. I'm getting it now, but you know what? The old little kids that are being born right now, let them have it. At the very least.
Do you mind talking about captioning for songs? Sometimes it'll say music playing, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's
Gosh,
kind of something
just
Dennis
caption your freaking videos that are songs. Oh my god. Like, people ask me this, I'm like, yeah, okay, I don't say it like I just did that, but if somebody asked me, should I caption, you know, my music videos, like the song lyrics or whatever? Yeah. I mean, yes, I can like play the video, like pull up a trend, the lyrics like on my phone or put it up on a different screen, but like, video, song lyrics, video, song lyrics, video, song lyrics, what am I gonna focus on? I wanna watch the video, right? I wanna watch the video and follow along as well. So like, the automatic captions often will also just put music playing, and then there's no, you know, lyrics being captioned or whatever, captioning songs. But yeah. But yeah, going back to, is that good? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really popular in movies right now.
So now, going back to the language acquisition thing, what was that? Where exactly did I leave off? Alright, so yeah, give all kids a chance, right? And even if, yes, some people may decide this is the reality of it, and I'm team, do whatever you want, communicate however you want, okay? If it just so happens that Susie decides that ASL may not be for her, I actually know another deaf person who, for some reason, really isn't able to comprehend ASL for some reason. I don't know all the details, but she's tried and she just can't do it. So English works for her. I respect that. Do whatever you want. But at least they got the chance, right? You show them all the options, which is incredibly important. So it's better to give people the options and let them choose whatever they want as adults, right? Than to just be like, no. Don't pull an Alexander Graham Bell, right? Just, we like options. Options are important. Opening the world to people is important. Accessibility is important. And then the last one. What are some things fellow YouTubers can do to make YouTube more accessible? Caption videos. Also, write a transcript maybe to go along with it. Or like if you already have the caption file, right, just copy and paste onto a separate Google Doc. One helps more with blind viewers or like deaf blind viewers because sometimes, well, you can change the color and the font size of your captions on YouTube, but maybe it's just easier to have it on transcript form, pull up a MacBook or whatever, and zoom in. Might be better for them, you know, that type of thing. I'm a fan of both. I should probably put my money where my mouth is and actually do that as well, even for my speaking videos. But yeah, so caption, transcript. If you're doing an ASL video, I actually mentioned this before. Captions, transcript for blind people, fellow deaf blind people. Let's see, what else? If audio description was a thing, I'd say audio description, but it's not. YouTube. Work on that. Anything else? I think that pretty much covers the basics of accessibility as far as YouTube goes. But also, image description. Okay, this is more like Instagram, or you know, video description. Sometimes you'll write like this, you know, with image descriptions you write what's in the photo, or at least what's the main point of the photo that you want people to look at, right? Same with video description, write down so-and-so sitting in a chair in front of her desk, you know, that type of thing. Also a little bit accessible to blind folks. I think that pretty much covers the basics. If there's any more, somebody can let me know later. But yeah.
Can I ask a question? Since we have a very hard time going through a public school, have you told your parents that you wanted to go to a deaf school?
I think parents, right? Oh gosh. I don't think I really knew that there was a deaf school until I was like, well, out of high school actually. I guess that's kind of weird. That's a really good question. But yeah, so while I was in high school, I just never really thought about it. I don't think I really took my deafness seriously until I graduated high school. You know, I think it's a very complicated thing, and I think I should make a video about that. Thank you for the inspiration. But yeah, but after like a couple years ago, I did say, you know, hey, I need to take you to a deaf school now I know about this, but you know, it's just a little bit too late. I remember when I had a friend at the time who lived near there, she told me about it, and I was like, dang, why didn't I ever get to go? That would have been nice, but yeah. And I was like, why didn't you take me there? I don't know. Yeah.